Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In today's video we will be sending a mobile base to Duna, and for those of you that don't know, Duna is Kerbal Space Program's version of Mars. So here we are launching the base atop a rocket that sort of resembles an SLS, just not really. So it has powered by two kickback solid rocket motors, which are those two white boosters attached to the side of the rocket, as well as four vector engines underneath the orange tank. So the SRBs are there just to give us that extra little kick to clear the thicker parts of the atmosphere, which are up below 8,000 meters, which is the approximate start of where things start to get a little bit thinner, even though the atmosphere, just like in real life, gradually tapers off. So anyway, the SRBs are about to run out of fuel, and there we go. They have run out of fuel. We jettison the SRBs because they are now dead weight, producing no thrust because, well, they have no fuel. So anyway, we continue on with the vector engines, and right now, with most of the fuel depleted, because it's already burned away, then the rocket has pretty good thrust-weight ratio, which means we don't need the extra thrust that the solid rocket motors provide us with. So yeah, now you can see me checking the apoapsis height quite regularly, so I make sure that I don't burn past 85 kilometers, which would be burning fuels anyway. First stage has ran out of fuel. Jettison the first stage and ignite the Rhino engine, raise the apoapsis up to 85 kilometers, and then now you can see me playing around with the maneuver node maker so we can get ourselves a nice round orbit. In the end, I got it pretty close. It's close enough for me. I mean, I don't really want it doesn't need to be perfectly circular, just about circular is fine. So yeah, deploy the fairings because we are now out of the atmosphere, so we don't need to haul that extra weight along with us. And about to start our circularization burn. There we go. Ignited the Rhino engine to perform our circularization burn. This burn is pretty short because of the fact that the Rhino engine is probably a bit excessive for our needs. There we go. So yeah, now after a lot of suffering with the maneuver node maker, I finally got an encounter with Duna. Even though it's pretty inefficient, I was happy with it and not willing to waste any more time making a maneuver node. So yeah, orienting ourselves to point towards the maneuver marker on the nav ball and igniting that Rhino engine again to raise our apoapsis all the way out of Kerbal sphere of influence and into deep space, and then eventually to intercept Duna's sphere of influence. So here we go. After more suffering with the maneuver node maker, then basically the maneuver node maker, I had to play with it to finish our circularization burn. And then I decided to do some science in space high over the sun. So here you are. You can see me bringing my little Kerbal out to do a little tour outside of the spacecraft so you can see what it actually looks like. And then here we are running these various science experiments I have brought with me. So here we have a Kerbal that is, I think, taking the data. Yes, was this taking the data? Yeah, it was taking the data. And then we can take the data and store it inside the command pod before using that big chunky antenna on top to transmit the data back to Kerbal, and then we can have some science. So here you can see the antenna working its way and uploading that data. So now we can just finish the rest of our time warping. So you can see there the motion of, how the spacecraft moves towards Duna. This is pretty similar to how it works in real life, albeit the planets are much further apart. So yeah, now I decide to point towards Duna to see if I can see it, and there you go, you can actually see it through the window of that command pod at the front. So yeah, we have entered Duna's sphere of influence and time warped all the way down to our periapsis, where we're going to start our capture burn at Duna, not circularization burn, sorry. It was again pretty short because our thrust-weight ratio is much better, probably a bit excessive. In fact, it probably very well is excessive for our needs, because we don't need to perform a circularization burn in mere seconds. Sorry, I keep saying circularization burn when it's supposed to be capture burn. So yeah, running some science, and again transmitting the data back to Kerbin, and then warping up to the point where I decided to start our deorbit burn to lower our periapsis into the surface of Duna. And I wanted to land on the edge of the a canyon for no other reason other than I thought it would look cool, and in the end, it did not look very cool. But anyway, I think it's fine. So yeah, I have deorbited, and now we're gonna warp down closer to the surface. And I decided to stop time warp now so that I could actually finish setting up some stuff with basically preparing the craft. So here I'm setting the minimum pressure of the parachutes to 0.01, and we want to be able to deploy our parachutes as early as possible. So now we're warping down to the surface of Duna. And at this moment I realized that our alignment was pretty much perfect, so I was pretty happy with that. And just finishing the last of our time warp, and boom, there we are. We have entered the top of Duna's atmosphere, and we're going to retract our solar panels and orient ourselves retrograde, pointing engines first. So yeah, now Duna's atmosphere is quite thin and starts at 50 kilometers, so it's a little bit lower than Kerbin's, so you need to be able to decelerate very, very fast, and you will see how I do that when we get to that point, which will be in a few seconds. Maybe like 30 seconds, I don't know. So anyway, using physical time warp to warp our way down, and you can see the signal at the top slowly depleting, and now we have no signal. Why? That's because of the plasma, which is those orange flames you can see lapping the side of our spacecraft, and because those the plasma disrupts the signal, and so it makes it harder for the antenna to contact Kerbin, sorry, not Earth. So yeah, you can see that Duna's atmosphere is doing very little in terms of slowing us down. We're still moving at about 1 kilometer per second, and we're just at we're already at 10 kilometers above the surface. In fact, much lower. So here we go. Igniting that Rhino engine, depleting all of its fuel to slow down as much as possible. Jettison that Rhino stage, deploy those drogue chutes to slow us down a bit more. To fully deploy the drogue chutes, and then now main chutes are out. And main chutes fully deployed, and then we are now coasting down at a very slow rate. Well, comparatively slow. Still pretty fast, though. Note, this kind of landing system, parachute only, will not work in real life, because Mars's atmosphere is much too thin for parachutes to do all of the deceleration, and so you need some other form of deceleration to absorb that speed. So in the case of Perseverance, which landed a few months ago, then that used rockets to basically kill off the rest of the speed and make a soft, nice touchdown. So yeah, coming down at a steady 12.7 meters per second towards the surface, and boom, hit the surface with a pretty, probably uncomfortable thud for the Kerbals, but anyway, they're Kerbals. They don't really have any sense of what comfort is. So anyway, we're now on the surface of Duna. We have landed on Duna, so we're going to raise that mast and turn on those lights just to give a good feel of where we're landing. Here I checked my surroundings a bit, and you can see a little Duna sand dune, which appears in front of us, which is a little mound of dirt that you can see in front of the rover, directly in front of the rover, actually, a little bit to the right. So anyway, we're going to create a quick save. And then I decided to go ahead and scan this little sand dune. Now note, in my previous video, I did not have the Breaking Ground DLC, which is a little expansion of the game, so these would not have existed on Duna yet. And we wouldn't have this cute looking little scanner arm thing. So yeah, we're going to use that scanning arm and scan the Duna sand dune to get some science about it. So this, I think it has 4 instruments. It has like a camera thing, a drill, a microscope, and a laser thing. So yeah, that's the science report. 480 science, which is a good chunk of science that we can keep for ourselves. Anyway, we're gonna deploy that scanner, which is going to tell us the biome that we're in and how much ore is in the ground, which will be useful if we want to set up a base with a refinery on it. So yeah, we're gonna drive our rover thing down to a little bit lower, and I was looking for a nice flat spot to set up base. So this thing goes pretty fast. It's, not exactly that safe, but again, this is Kerbal Space Program, not real life, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, and you can see in front a little Duna meteorite thingy. Well, it's not from Duna. It came from outside of Duna and smashed into the surface. And so yeah, we're gonna stop here and scan it again with our scanning arm. Stop, and then we're going to extend that scanning arm and have a good look at it. So again, it's the same scanning arm with 4 instruments, and yeah. I wish I was recording the sound at this time. Then you could hear the cute little whirring noises. So yeah, I think that was 360 science, which is again a pretty nice chunk of science for us. Even though I don't need it because I've already fully unlocked the tech tree. So yeah, driving down, still looking for a flat spot to set up a base. And I found a flat spot pretty soon. It was it here? No, it wasn't here. It was here, right here. Or no, it wasn't here. Anyway, I don't remember which part I found it was. But yeah, it was right here. I wanted to set up a flat spot because I don't want my rover sliding around, and for another reason you will see later. Anyway, raise that mast, turn on those nice bright lights, and then turn off the headlights because those are simply wasting battery, wasting electricity. Now that we're not driving. So yeah, we're gonna get our engineer out on an EVA to do an exterior inspection. Now I know I should have done this earlier, but hey, I forgot, and yeah. So just gonna take a nice little waddle around the craft to see if all the parts of the rover are doing fine. And yes, they are indeed. So just jetpack over, and then enter the rover command pod. Well, not the rover command pod, it's just the command pod itself. So yeah, extend those solar panels and get I think this is our scientist Kerbal out, and he's going to put out our deployable science, which is going to be nice. So I believe this science experiment is the GOBED monitor. I don't know how to say it. I probably don't even remember the name correctly, but it's basically the mystery goo just permanently stationed on the surface, and so we can monitor it for a longer period of time and get some useful data. So yeah, finding a nice spot to put it, and there we go. We can put it right here. Oh, and yeah, it was pretty stubborn and didn't let me put it down. Okay, this was actually not the monitor, this was the weather station. Right. So it looks like a real life weather station, actually. And yes, so now we're gonna get the ionizer thing, which is useless on Duna because it has an atmosphere, but let's just pretend it looks at the atmospheric content. Well, yeah, I don't know, just have some fun with it, you know? And then here I am looking for, this is the seismometer, which is going to measure any seismic activity. And for this thing, you have to crash things into the surface to produce any science, which I think is pretty cool. So I may actually just get a booster or something and crash it into the surface at high speed to get some useful data. So yeah, extend that seismometer thingy-mabobber. And then now we're going to go get the final experiment, which is actually the goo monitor thingy-mabobber. So yeah, we can waddle over and then put it right here. Come on, put it down. There we go, put it down. And then extend the stuff, and there you go, you can see it. Look at that. There's a little mystery goo thing and a little camera thing to monitor it over a longer period of time. So yeah, there was, I just had to quick save there, but didn't record it for some reason. So yeah, now we're going to deploy that relay antenna. It was not a relay antenna, it's just an antenna. So we can send the results of our deployable science back to Kerbin. So now we're going to deploy the little command unit thingy of the deployable science kit. And then get the jetpack back on so that we can EVA back into the command pod, because I forgot to put a ladder, which is, well, quite typical of me to forget to put things like that. And now we're going to, I think this is our engineer again, and we're going to place our power units. So I brought with us 3 solar panels and 2 RTGs. So solar panels are going to provide us with electricity during the day, and the RTGs during the night. Well, the RTGs actually run all day long, and they can't be switched off, just like in real life. But hey, at least it provides us with a power source. So yeah, slowly waddling around and deploying the solar panels, and I was wondering where to put the third one, and I settled on this position right here. So now we're going to put the RTGs, which I decided to put on the very front in view of the big light thingy-mabobber. And yeah, so this is why I decided to put the rover on a flat spot, so that I wouldn't have to deal with maybe the deployable science falling over, even though I don't think they have physics in them, because you can walk straight through them. So yeah. So now, after we adjusted the positioning of the big rover, so to put us nearer to the deployable science, we can now do the final thing we're going to do on the surface, which is perform the EVA experiment, which, well, I'll let you see for yourself what that is. So yeah, he's going to walk out, and yeah, you can watch. So yeah, the EVA experiment is basically golf. The Kerbals will play a little spot of golf on Duna, which I'm pretty sure is a recreation of Alan Shepard's legendary golf shot on the moon, which, as of right now, is the only sport to have been played on another body that is not Earth. So yeah, that was in 1970 on Apollo 14. So now the EVA experiment has been completed. We can board the command pod again, and now we can point our antenna towards Kerbin. Of course, this is all fake. In the game, antennas perform nominally. It doesn't matter where you point the antenna, they still work normally. Possibly because it would be way too difficult to implement that and to play. So yeah. Now we can warp to nighttime, so you can see what it looks like. You can see it looks pretty nice with those big light things doing their job just fine, and really illuminating the surroundings, which makes it quite cool, I think. So yeah, warp to sunrise, and yeah, so that'll be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to see more content like this, please subscribe, and put feedback in the comments, and we'll see you next time.